awakened being. And I know that many of us have had spiritual experiences that started us off on a path of inquiry and opening and possibility. And so today is open mic time. Today you get to share. The rest of us want to hear your stories. And open mic is always very powerful to me because it gives me ideas that I hadn't thought of before in my opening, in my search, in my quest, in my exploration. So I'm looking forward to that. These are the rules. You get to come up here because we want to all be able to look at you. And you can speak softly, you can speak loudly, but you can't speak long. So, come on.
Announcement about this. As usual, I'm videotaping, but I don't want to discourage anyone from getting up there and doing it. So, if you get up, if you want to not be videoed, just give me a sign, something. Or if you forget afterward, let me know, and I can make sure to edit you out. But I really love the idea of having individual wisdom to share. So, anyway, I would encourage everybody to speak who wants to.
So, some say that we're already enlightened and we have just forgot. So if that's true, this is a process of remembering. And so I will find a way to let you know if it's too long or to wrap it up. But I won't exactly time you. Okay, let's go. Come on, Joy.
I just want to tell you about an experience I had a long time ago that increased my my knowing. Let's just say my knowing, and it was a really rough time in my life. My daughter, who is, gosh, this had to be, about 20 years ago. My daughter was very angry at me because I'd come to visit her. And because she was so hostile in her house, I went and stayed at my sister's house. This is all in Seattle. And she was very angry at me. And she was angry the whole time I was there. And I couldn't help her. I couldn't do anything right. And so she was angry at that. And then a lot of things happened where she was pregnant. I don't know if I still told you that. Anyway, so everything went wrong. And so I came home, and then I got an email. I was just ready to leave the house, get on the bus, and go to my work at the library. And it was the most evil email I've ever gotten in my life. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I thought, I've got to get to work. So I just left, and I was just numb. And I got to the corner where I was going to turn. And I was in the Course in, I was studying the Course in Miracles at that time. And I think that's why these certain words came to me from, I don't know where. Well, I do know where. This is nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And it changed my day. It was a beautiful day in spite of all the other stuff. It was one of the most beautiful days of my life. And then that's when I knew it's not just about me.
A while back when I was living in Salt Lake, I took a driving trip up to Washington to visit my brother. And the idea was to take the Pacific Coast Highway down the coast and see what I could see. I stayed overnight at some friends in Corvallis, Oregon. And at that time, I learned that my clutch was going out on my manual Honda. And I was told that if I didn't reverse, I would be fine. Or if I could get home. So I put aside my plans to visit ghost towns in the area, and I got on Route 66. Which is a great highway, by the way. And so if anybody's ever traveled that highway, it's pretty hilly, okay? So I am driving up this hill, and there is a semi coming behind me, and I can't downshift to first. So I'm thinking, wait a minute. If I can't, then that means I have to stop, pull over, and shift my car down to first. So that worked out pretty well. But in the meantime, as I'm going down this road, I'm thinking, you know what? I can pray that I will get home fine, or I can just have faith that it's going to happen. So I chose the faith. And so I'm driving toward Reno, and on the way, the dark is falling, so I see this orange glow on the horizon. I'm thinking, oh, there's Reno. Well, as I got closer, I realized that there were wildfires going, brush fires, along the sides of the roads, and the firemen were out there fighting them. And there were other cars ahead of me and behind me, and we were stopped at the checkpoint. And they told us that we could drive through if we didn't go fast. And so I thought, I want to drive through. I want to see this. So I turned off the music. I just turned off the sound. And I don't know, we were going maybe 5-10 miles an hour, so we wouldn't stir the sparks. And by now, night had completely fallen, and I just drove through in the silence with a beautiful orange glow on either side of the freeway, on the highway, just observing this process of the fires and the people working, and in that silence, I will never forget that experience. It turned that seeming devastation into a thing of beauty. And we finally got through to the end of the area, and I did get home to Salt Lake without incident. And I went and got my clutch fixed. But that was one experience that cemented for me the value of faith over prayer. I don't need to pray when I am confident that God is taking care of me.
About 20 years ago, I did a vision quest. I was sitting on one side of a gully, and 3 ponies came walking up the other side of the the gully, one by one. And then they turned and faced me. And I just stared at them and they stared at me. And then they turned and walked one by one away. Now, when I was done with my vision quest, I told the facilitator that I had seen 3 ponies. And he said, "There aren't any ponies out here. The woman who owns this land doesn't keep her ponies here." So I thought, well, I saw those ponies, and I just let it be. About 10 years later, I was driving down the expressway, and I realized all of a sudden that was my vision, the 3 ponies. I have no idea what that meant. I'm just going to maybe wait another 10 years going down the expressway, and the meaning will come to me.
Hi, my name's Mona. So I've had a long experience of really disabling illness, which isn't very visible from when you see me, and severe trauma and PTSD and a lot of stuff probably over the last 15 years. And I've been living in Bali the last 5 years, which is a really beautiful spiritual vortex. And it's been very supportive to me to have community and the Balinese people, but also really beautiful people, expats all over. And when I'm not well, have people care for me, but not feel disabled or like there's something wrong with me. And so I've spent a lot of time alone in the last 15 years in my bed, because when I had Lyme disease, I was pretty much in bed. When I was in Bali, I spent a lot of time in bed. I would go out to do, events, because the town is very small in Ubud where I live, but it's still, there was a lot of time alone dealing with trauma and illness. And, I have come to a lot of spiritual practices that have helped me not understand, just open up to the acceptance, because the first 8 years I spent fighting, resisting, studying everything about Lyme disease. How do I fight this disease? Blah, 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 blah. That just brought more. And then I've come to a really beautiful place, but it keeps happening. And I just read something in your book that says learning is, in the songbook, learning is something that we already know, right? I feel like I've basically been unlearning all the stuff that I was born with. I'm 41 now, and I had to move back in with my parents recently, and it's been very challenging. And I read this quote about freedom, because I'm like, I'm not free. I am stuck. I am trapped back in the place I was for the last 10 years. I'm trapped. I'm stuck. I can't get out. And all the thoughts were spinning. And then I remembered all the things I learned, including, right, that my truest freedom was actually to choose peace and happiness where I am, in a place that I may not want to be, that may not feel supportive. And as soon as I started choosing that freedom, I noticed, right, like I found this center. I was like, where can I go find like-minded people? And I'm in, the suburbs of Michigan thinking, dear God, please. And I found this. I went to A Course in Miracles. I found other places. And then, of course, as soon as I open up that possibility, more angels start popping into my field, right? And it's not something that I don't already know, but it didn't feel possible in Michigan, because in Bali, everything happens like this. And it was just a reminder of the fact that I basically have freedom, and that I felt very disconnected from the divine. I felt disconnected from spirit when I came back to my parents' house, and I said, how do I connect to this? And I did a ceremony at the full moon. My parents are from India originally. I did a puja, but like a non-denominational puja to clear things. And then I felt it. I felt connected to spirit again. And I was crying and I was happy. And all the hatred I had for my parents that day literally transformed into love. And I went with them to Montreal. I sat in a beautiful church and I started crying. I just felt, and I felt this connection. I remembered it's always there, you know? Like I perceive that it's gone. I perceive that I don't have the ability to connect to spirit, even when I look or feel sick or have all these circumstances. And so it's really nice to just feel connected again to spirit, to feel and remember that even when you don't have all the people around you to remind you that it's actually there within you, it's always within you. And this is a much more challenging exercise for me to find it within me when I don't have all the community that I usually have around me. And so, of course, I'm very grateful for a place like this. But I'm just learning that that's the real truth. It's not just finding it in Bali where it's like boom, 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 but really finding it anywhere I go because it's always inside me. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that, and thanks.
You better time me, big. Remember. No, as I sat there, I'm hearing about fires. I'm hearing about all these illnesses or troubles with your family. And of course, that one, I think we all have that to some degree. But I've been a student now of the Course in Miracles for 30 years. I've looked at many other paths. I have many good friends that are Buddhist or study Islam and where I'm trying to go with this is whatever path we choose, there can be peace there. And I say that because I don't care what you study, they're going to give you these little nuggets of wisdom. Like Joy just said in the Course, what she held on to was that short phrase. And I think many times I used to listen to Marianne Williamson. And there was a time in life when I was pretty angry, pretty violent. And then I heard that one phrase of hers, is that the kind of man you want to be? I can't tell you how many times that pulled me back to give up some of that gigantic right ego and do what? And listen. I could listen to Spirit then. And choose. And we know we always have choice. We can choose. And at those moments, you choose for love, not fear. And there's where you're going to find that peace. The recognition that we are all one. I mean, we can say that thousands of times. We are one. But until we treat you as me, or that one phrase that I keep hearing, I am that, you are that, and that is that. So that's my philosophy in a nutshell. Thank you.
I told you I should have gone first, Rod. I can't follow that. Yeah. I was born in 1953, the year Elvis made his first recordings, and it was on Dave Clark of the Dave Clark Five's 11th birthday. I graduated from high school, fell in love, got married, got divorced, went to college, went to Graceland, and almost got kicked out for putting my hand on Elvis's pink Cadillac. That's the proudest thing in my life. I fell in love again, and this time it took. I'm still in love with her. I survived a life-threatening accident. I buried my parents. I discovered the center. Now I'm 64, and I've never known less in my life than I do now. I don't know if I'm enlightened. I don't know if I'm cute. I don't know if I'm smart. I doubt it. But I don't care. The only thing I do know is the only peace I have found, the only beauty I have found, the only truth I have found is to be nice to people. And when I say nice, I don't mean in the way I say at work. I say, have a nice day to every customer. You know, I don't mean like that. I mean, I do and I don't. The only, I guess, to love people, love everybody, like I love the tree that's in my front yard. I love that tree. It's so beautiful and so wise. And when I look at you and say, you are so beautiful and so wise, and you, even you, Rod, are so beautiful and so wise, and everyone, and to treat every single person I meet with that kind of love and honor. Like I say, I'm not smart. I don't know if I'm enlightened, but I do know that what I just said is what I try to live by. Thank you very much. I love you all.
Wow, we got to pray in tongues today singing. Never knew those were words. Awakening, wow. I, like previously said, I don't know if I'm awakened, but I sure like being around people that are. It all started for me when I went to college. I didn't end up at this college. It was my second choice because my first choice didn't happen. And looking back, I think maybe it had something to do with spirit. It was a Catholic, small Catholic college in Grand Rapids, Aquinas, and had to take a required course in religion. Didn't mind it, you know. And I met this little dynamic woman who had a PhD in scripture. Now back then, to be a woman, to be a professor, to be teaching scripture was really rare. And by the time we got to Christmas break, I just really enjoyed her class. All the ways we were talking about things I'd never heard before. And I, you know, worked during Christmas vacation and all that stuff. I turned around, and the farther I got away from the experience, the more I realized I missed what was going on in the way she was connecting things, the way the dots were coming together. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. And I realized I couldn't wait to get back and have that experience again. And from that time on in my life, I constantly looked for people that had the story, and I listened to their story and their experiences. And I've had my own experiences, but I think it's that connectedness that we have. And it isn't that connectedness that's so nice and pretty. Sometimes it's that rubbing together and causing that friction that I've had. And in all the tough times, the good times, the easy times. And it just, it's been such a good experience. And I truly, truly like that idea of coming together and hearing your stories. Your stories keep me going. Your stories wear down the rough edges on my life. Your stories strengthen my part of my story that's weak. I need that contact. I need places like this. Will I be here the rest of my life? Will I move on to another community? I don't know. But every community that I've been part of, I've really liked listening to those stories. And I think the awakening has to do with, and that's the thing I describe about this place. Some places call themselves, we're searchers, we're seekers, we're this, we're that. You know, I think one of the key things that describes us is that we are listeners. I think we like to listen to each other's story because we're so uniquely different and diverse. And I cherish that. And to me, that's the sacredness. That's that sacred, that special moment. You know? I don't think I could find God in a bushel basket if somebody put him there, him or her, you know? But it's just that whole idea, that connectedness that we have. I know I don't have the whole story. I never will, and I don't care. But man, not to have you guys around and not hear that story is just devastating to me. So I look forward to listening to your stories more and more and more.
Hi, just a brief sharing of the joy of what it is to live with an awakened being every day. The one in my house is four-legged, beautiful, big tuxedo cat, deep purr. He sleeps a lot, and he shares wisdom and love with me, and it is a joy. Thank you.
So I want to talk for a minute about the journey I've been on for a really long time, but kind of came back pretty with a vengeance in the last couple of years. And what it has, if I try to hone it down to an essence, it's about learning to honor every single little piece of myself and everybody else. And that means everybody else, including some people I would rather not read about in the news. And it's been really hard. And I, a couple years ago, found myself at a point where I just felt like I wasn't sure how I was going to continue on having a lot of, I stopped taking antidepressants after 10 years, and a lot of pain came rushing back. But I did that because I felt like if I was going to accomplish what I think I came here to do, I was going to have to integrate the parts of myself that I had never been able to understand or deal with, the anxiety, the depression, the extreme difficulty that I would feel, that I'm feeling right now a little bit, because I have, in what I've learned over the last 2 years, part of it is that the way I survived my childhood, which never occurred to me to call it traumatic until a few months ago, and I was like, yeah, was to try to be perfect. And I'm sure none of you have ever tried to do that, but it makes you want to say every single word be the exact right thing. And of course, here I am saying whatever I say, and you all are getting whatever you get from it. So it's part of what I have learned. I have used many different methods, including coming here, which has been, Annie asked me once why I come here, and I said, because I get uplifted. And that's what you all do for me, and I thank you for that. So it's been an amazing journey. I have learned how to, through a technique called voice dialogue, listen to every single voice that comes forward. And what I have found is that when I listen to the ones that are painful or difficult or scared, lots of scared kids in there, and I give them their voice, then I can start to hear the voices that I've been seeking my whole life, excuse me, that are the ones that are wise and that have spirit and that come through things like Course in Miracles and through, so many wonderful things that have come to me. So I just wanted to talk about that, what it feels so important to honor everything, find the gift in everything. Much easier said than done. And I have two very short poems, so I would like to, if that, have enough time? Okay. So I had the blessing of working with a spiritual teacher for almost 20 years. Her name was Gwen Jansma. She had poems come through her. She was an amazing, magical, definitely awakened being. This one's called Whose Blessing? If I should use my eye and look into your eye to heal a part of you that ruptured in the womb, whose blessing will I have? If I should take my healing hand and stroke the golden cord above your head and open up your heart to charismatic energy, whose blessing will I have? And if I place my crystal piece upon a letter that you wrote in pain and you are soothed, whose blessing will I have? Whose disbelief or apathy and whose disparagement? Walk carefully with healing energy and place it well for witches have been burned and they will again. I think we have to remember, I have to remember that the path to awakening and enlightenment has every single aspect of living that one can imagine, but that I think each of us is an awakened being, whether we think we are or not. And that's what I want to finish with here is this poem, which is called The Light of the World Is. You are the light of the world. Who, me? I couldn't possibly accept. Have all those people looking up to me, depending on me? I am the light of the world? Is there time off? Vacation pay? What are my duties and responsibilities? What do I wear? If anything. And do I need to relocate? I am the light of the world? I can hardly make a dent in my own house. Who volunteered my services? I thought this role had been assigned to Gandhi, Buddha, Jesus Christ. You are the light of the world. Oh, poor world. I'm such an amateur. Perhaps when I get used to the idea, find out the color of my light, take off the bushels I've collected, prepare myself for all those hungry eyes, trust in myself, believe that I can make a difference. I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. As are you. Thank you.
I may have shared this a couple times before, but I know I was traveling through South Dakota, or North Dakota to the South Dakota border, and my father was trying to share some of his history of his family, and we were Baptists and traveling across Dakota as a family back then. And when he was trying to share this with me, he never really shared religion as a part of my life at any point in time, ever. And he was sharing this with me, and I said, well, pull over, Dad, and it's a town called Faith. And I got out of the car, and I grabbed some rocks off the side of the road, and I said, Dad, you showed me faith. And I took those rocks, and I share those rocks with people all the time, and I add more rocks to them. I want to say I'm sharing faith. Before I came to the Interfaith Center here, I was attending a church called the Vineyard. And it was actually the first time I decided to get baptized was at the Vineyard. But it was also a church where people felt very enlightened. They almost felt as if they were Jesus, because Jesus exists in our memories of who he was, what he did, and what he was about. So in some way, he does exist in what we feel he is or was or is or could have been. And so I take that to another level because my brother called me Third Eye. is I tend to be there at those moments when, with a unique point of view, when it was important to him. And I sort of stood out as the significant incident that brought about change. And when I learned my name meant one in Hebrew, that was sort of a new inspiration for me as well. And then I go back to learning about Shakespeare. And the one line, for some reason, that I always remembered from Othello was Iago's aside to the audience, was this: hell and night will bring this monstrous birth to the world's light. And he was talking about his reflection of self. But I always take that to another level as well, and I say, why raise hell when you can lower heaven and stay in the same place? Then I realized that raise has two meanings as well. You know, it's to burn or destroy. At the same time, it is to rise, bring something up. And I also know that was what the spirit of Christ, as I see it, was to bring these people out of purgatory or hell and to bring them to light and to be enlightened with them. And so I stick by that, you know, why raise hell when you can lower heaven? I know my parents probably think I was a hellraiser as a kid, but, you know, fortunately I've never been arrested, so I must be okay. I'm loving you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Amy, and I just want to say the word love for everybody. And also, about 5 years ago, I began to open up to being able to see different frequencies of people, and I just wanted to share of possibilities of what is possible. Sometimes we limit ourselves in what's possible, and I've just been really experiencing a lot of things kind of on my own. And I'm currently an energy worker, and I work at the Enlightened Soul Center. I also do crystal bowls, where I work with through the vibrations and the energies and with intentions and how important intentions are, and kind of like the gathered energy and let it spread throughout the world. So at any rate, I would just like to share one of the stories of my visualizations that I had, and that was at the Corinthian Center. I went there, it was a long time since I had been to a center or a church, and when I was younger, I used to sing in the churches. At any rate, so I felt it as a very sacred place. So I was there with my friends who went there to go do Reiki for the audience. And as they were doing Reiki, I just kind of left myself open because I have Reiki attunements. And as I was doing that, I looked up, and all of a sudden, way high up into the sky, I seen beautiful swirl of angels. And they came, and they're just all the way down. Next thing you know, I'm just holding my hands like this, and whew, they come out through my hands. Energy. Next thing, because, you know, I'm kind of like in the state of where I'm seeing with the third eye at the same time, I look over and I see a beautiful angel bending over like this, holding somebody's hand. And I just looked around the room, and I could see the angels are just here. And then a big, gigantic angel just walked right down the center. And because I'm viewing at that moment in that frequency, the people that came to go talk, I also seen them as gold in their frequency. And as they walked, they left the gold pattern, and the gold went up to the sky. So the point is that there's different frequencies, and sometimes when I'd walk by somebody, I might see actual like angel wings on people and different things like that. So actually, I work with energy, and I have this beautiful connection that goes even way beyond just seeing angels. It goes to seeing past DNA, pattern life experiences on people, to things like that. The thing is, the most important things are for me to have opened up and allowed this energies to come through, is to be in a very humble state to everything, and a loving state, and also, let's see, I don't know. I just wanted to open up that as one of the possibilities, that there are other frequencies out there, that that's about it. And if you even just take the glass of water that's before you and any type of food or anything around you and blow love, the intention, that vibration of love in what you're about to take and to drink, allow it to go through. As you walk, let the energies be love. And as another thing I would say, it's just been, let's see, that's about it. So I won't use up anybody's time. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. That was wonderful, powerful, meaningful. Thank you.